What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Binge Empire here on the Bingetown TV podcast network. And today's coverage will be Spartacus, House of Ashur, episode 7, Deepest Wound. So I am Kyle, your host. I am joined by Paul and Luke, aka Paulicus and Luciatis. And we're just here to talk about episode 7. We have been loving this season. I'm very excited for this conversation once again. I feel like I repeat myself and say that at the start of every single episode, but especially these past 3, it feels like the show has really taken a turn around the corner. Not the best way to say that, but it's just kind of been on the upswing exponentially, it feels like, these past 3. So I think that without any further ado, we're just going to hop into this. Am I wrong there?
Let's do it.
All right, maybe one content warning. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks, but like, listen, the episodes are the episodes. They got the TV MA warnings. The podcast will have the TV MA warnings, and we'll just bucket these conversations in as many related scenes as possible. We're going to try to talk about everything, though, because I feel like we always go like an hour 20, and I assume this will be no different. Okay, so we start off this episode in a way that I love, when the episode before is like some big event at the end of it, and where we're right into it. We didn't wait. All the answers, or rather the questions we were asking at the end of last episode of how's Dr. going to react? Is he going to blame Ashur and all these things? They answer it within the first 5 minutes. So we just have some scenes here. I just have it titled this bucket as the Operator Aftermath. So we have Dr. kind of mourning. We get the flashback scene of them kind of encountering it there. And then I just threw in Kasudia's kind of mourning too. This is just kind of like the collective mourning in the immediate aftermath.
Paul, why don't you start talking about the chorus thing? Because I think you spent a decent amount of time last podcast guessing that he was going to potentially blame Ashur. So I just want to hear how you react to this.
Yeah. I liked how they kind of showed it too. He was just distraught, and he went into the grief and drink away the pain reaction instead of anger, which I'm kind of glad he didn't resort to anger. Like I was really nervous that he was just going to blame Ashur and their relationship was going to be destroyed. But weirdly enough, I think the relationship is better than ever at the end of this episode. So I'm happy to see that. Yeah, as broken as Korra's was, his mindset was revenge, but it wasn't aimed in the wrong direction. So just more ups for his character.
Yeah, this was the dream for me for how he could react. Like, yes, he does have moments throughout this episode where he's going to kind of, in an indirect way, blame Ashur, but that conversation in the cell ends on a good note. So we could talk about that later, but I want to focus on Kasudia's reaction, because I was not expecting her to be this visceral about it. Like, did you get the vibe that they were besties, like this tight, to the point where this is controlling like what she wants to do for like the rest of the episode and how she's been reacting? I just did not expect her to go this overboard. I don't mind it at all, because like Romans need to have some type of loyalty. I just thought Kasudia was playing the game more where she was using Operator to her advantage whenever she could, but they were like legitimate best friends, and her reaction, it was good acting. It just surprised me. I was taking it all in as it was happening. And Gabinius himself doesn't care enough to give Operator like his funeral, like the games, but he does love his wife enough to then allow the auctioning in his name. So that's cool. But yeah, I mean, Gabinius isn't on the same page as Kasudia, but like she was just losing her mind.
I mean, I guess in her mind, it's when's the next time she's going to orgasm?
Well, whenever she hangs out with
I guess that's true.
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when she makes that realization that the transition of that is there for her to enjoy in the House of Caesar, maybe she won't be as distraught. But I mean, she even comments, my husband, I wish he had a tongue like this. So she's definitely mourning that loss, which, can you blame her? The thing that I took the most away from this was Gabinius even like talks about that. He mentions, he knew kind of what Operator meant to her. He kind of throws some, it's pretty obvious for us, and they kind of don't actually say it outright. I don't think Viridia really understood what that was, and Gabinius kind of backs off the conversation because he sees how like emotional and passionate she is in the moment, and that's a married man who kind of knows when to push maybe and when to back away. And that is interesting. I think that will be something for sure that rears its head again in the future.
It's almost a parallel to Badiatus.
Yep.
Telling Lucretia, like, yeah, I know you've been banging Crixus, but
crazy.
I thought it made you happy. he took it on the chin more. I guess they both really took it on the chin without complaining. The boys that is. The girls were both surprised that the boys knew, which is kind of funny, that parallel.
Gabinius was really interesting this scene too because he comes in hot. He was like, "Yo, would you get it together, Kasudia? Like, stop crying over a man that was so low in status." Which I was not thinking Gabinius was going to be that cold, but he does have a line earlier, or right after that, where Kasudia is saying like, "Oh, like all you care about is our appearance," and he's like, "Yeah, one of us has to." So obviously Gabinius has got to be cold, but it seems like he's so cold he like doesn't have a heart almost, except maybe for Viridia. We've seen him be like the softest for Viridia. So when Kasudia brings up the games in Opiter's honor, I was like, yes, let's do this. I'm all in. Of course, it didn't get to that, but that would have been so ideal.
Well, speaking of Iridia too, there's a little bit of maybe growth in this scene for her too, because she is like, yeah, let's do some games, and that is quite the progression for her. In these 7 episodes, maybe even 4 episodes, since she's really become kind of a main character. And it also is great, that she kind of plays this kind of mediator role. They're just really going out of their way to show how great she is.
I was gonna say we're all on the same page that she is just like a top 3 character, right?
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. I love Viridia.
Yeah. All right. So the only other thing I actually had about this aftermath, it just made me laugh because we talked so much of, oh man, like when Chorus gets back, what's he going to do to Ashur? And it's just so funny that Ashur just went with him. So like he was there and he saw what happened too. So there didn't need to be this kind of information asymmetry. Like they were both there. They both kind of saw what happened. So it didn't need to kind of boil into this thing.
And did we mention that they have the fake symbol that was planted on the wall?
Yeah. I'm glad, because at first when he's like Cilicians, and when I first read my notes, I'm like, there's no way he believes that it's actually Cilician pirates. And I'm glad that it didn't turn into that, because he does the whole Cornelius stuff, which we'll talk in more detail later.
Yeah.
Again,
I was a little frustrated.
Why leave your mark too at that point? It's just,
All right. So the next kind of bucket I have here is just kind of Achilles. So Achilles kind of returning to the sands here. There's 2 parts to this. The first part is going to be the conversation she has with Calidus, which I will eat some humble pie on for sure. And then she has a training battle with Tarkon. This is the first one of the episode. I'm glad that they did both of these scenes. I think they're kind of good for the show, maybe in different ways. And do you want me to eat the humble pie now, or should I save it for later?
Is the humble pie that she is straight?
Yeah, the humble pie is that she's definitely romantically interested in
Yeah.
Calidus. Yes.
Yeah.
I was cracking up the whole time because we didn't really get an answer last conversation about how she, stood in terms of Calidus, but literally one of the first things she says is like a feast for the senses. So she was all about Calidus coming in, checking in on her. And I like the part too where she says, the arena was as intoxicating as you said it was going to be. And he was like, yeah, baby, there's no better glory. And I was like, look at you two, you little champion couple. You guys would be such a power couple. It's insane.
Oh my, I mean, them in a duo fight would be wild.
I also want to give us props as a podcast for discussing what was going to happen with their fighting style, because I was ready to complain. I was ready to come on here and be like, wow, they really just put a sword in her right hand and let her actually fight like normal, when that would take so long to rehab. But it played out in such a good way. Like she can't handle it. She's struggling against the wooden post. And then she eventually starts talking about the spear. And I forget which one it was. I think it might have been you, Paul, or maybe, no, I think it might have been, I don't know. Either one of you brought up the idea that the spear was going to be an obstacle for her just because of her flashback. And that is exactly what happens here. And it's really well done. And I'm happy that it eventually turns into what it turns into, because I was having such an issue with the hand. And I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah, they tried to slide like a little bit of a time skip in here, because I think we learned it's 7 days later. We know that Chorus has been mourning for 7 days. And that's probably enough time for her to be like, all right, get me back out there, and I loved that they have Tarkon go right for it with the shield in the first fight. I'm so glad that it's like she's still struggling to kind of come back. She's not just immediately waltzing onto the sands after one win in the arena and is like, the big dog and dominating everyone, because she wins the fight for sure in the arena. And like, I'm still not convinced like skill wise, she is like head and shoulders above everyone else, like definitive champion of the house. And I think that they're still going out of their way to show us that, which I personally appreciate.
Which I also agree with. I just wasn't even going to bring this up, but I thought it was a little corny, all the gladiators giving her a chant, because just like you
Yeah.
said right there, she's had one win. Is she really like deserving of the Crixus Spartacus treatment of like, you represent our house and like all these chants? Felt like that was a little premature, but you know,
Yeah.
all my
I mean,
complaints come from pretty much these first couple of scenes, and then everything else is just all up. So I just wanted to bring that up.
the two guys, or I guess maybe two of the three guys, taking Calidus out of the equation because he's Doctora right now, that weren't really into it are ones that were in the arena. You know, Arato and Tarkon have actually fought in the arena. They were kind of like, whatever. You know, Ephesius did eventually get into it.
One hit, it was bullshit. All the jerk brothers were not like applauding at all. It was so upsetting.
Yeah. The guy who starts it, I don't remember his name. They've dropped it a couple times. They're teasing us with him. He's like kind of in scenes a lot, but also not. I feel like he's the most well-known of the non-known. I personally kind of enjoyed it. And then they do get to watch her get her ass beat twice.
One other thing that I just thought was funny real quick, it was when Achilea and Calidus were talking in the meta kiss. Calidus is like, oh yeah, I'm not a gladiator anymore. I'm Doctore. And she's like, what? And I'm like, couldn't you tell from the vest? He was wearing the Doctore vest, Achilles.
She's kind of new.
Yeah, Nubian.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And you know what's so funny that I wrote in my notes here too, and it comes up in the later fight too. Tarkon always has to hop on a soapbox. He is always trying to deliver some like speech and like cutting lines and stuff in the fights. And it's just like, I'm a little upset. Like, I get it why she loses the second fight with the spear. You know, it's this emotional storytelling with, you know, she's still not kind of overcoming what is actually holding her back. But I love that she hit him right in the mouth, and I wanted her to do it again. I want him to just like not have to talk for like an episode.
The more time we spend with Tarkon, the less redeeming he seems. Like I just,
This is smack.
I mean, he does have an okay scene with his Ilata later.
Yeah, you are El Rata Ilata.
Right? Yeah, he has an okay scene there where it makes him like, you know, he's willing to defend his
We can
woman.
just talk
and
about that
stuff
now
like
if you want.
Sure, because it's just a quick one-off, and I don't think it'll pay off until next episode, but it's gonna pay off in a great way. And I'll just run through that, and then we can jump back to when Ashur goes to have a conversation later. But yeah, like he just gets some alone time with Alada, and he notices, of course, that she's been bruised up. But the issue is that the person that's doing the bruising is always going to be a Roman that's protected. But he's ready to just go full hothead and kill somebody, and you know that always doesn't work out. Like when Crixus notices that something with Navia, and like he does something, it's always going to work out negatively. But the cool thing is we're going to get a show out of it because he's telling her, make sure you bring this annoying Roman, sit him in the front seat of the next games, and I'll treat him to something. Because there's a world where, like, you know, he's just throws a spear or sword, misses over the shoulder of who he's against, and it just fucking kills somebody in the pavilion or whatever. What's it called again?
Well, the Pulvinus, right?
The Pulvinus, that's the word.
But he won't be in the Pulvinus. That guy, the fat guy, will be down right on the stands.
True.
Yeah, because she was in the stands kind of with him like that. We'll see. I mean, is it going to go wrong? He's going to kill her? I don't know. I just feel like,
wow, that's a good guess.
Could totally die at some point. I think everything that I was thinking about with Calidus being part of Tarkon's sad story, I think it's just transitioning now to like she will be part of his sad story, and then the Calidus is more in an Achillea kind of story there. I think that's the way things have moved.
I was trying to figure out when Calidus was watching Tarkon and Achillea fight. This was like the relationship triangle that we were talking about before. Like, how is this going to end? But I think you're right. They're kind of pushing Tarkon more towards that. And, you know, if the Roman grabs Ilata and like pulls her in front, just like Badiatus survived in the finale of season 1, that would be bad for a lot of reasons. But like Luke said, it's going to be a show for us because Tarkon's such a smacked ass right now.
Writing itself.
Yeah. I mean, you just said that, and how about that for a bonding experience between Achillea and Tarkon?
Oh my god, yeah.
That would be literally the same thing, essentially, that they've done to people that they love. Yeah. That would be pretty wild. All right, we're looking out for it.
I get it, bro. I get it. And then they're going to be friends, and then they're going to hang out. Is that what's going to happen after?
Maybe. That's why she finally can maybe earn his respect. Not that she even needs it at this point. I mean, he's just obviously a smacked ass, like I said earlier. Okay, so we can move into kind of moving back more towards maybe the start of the episode. I have these next couple scenes just kind of labeled as accounting, but it's basically we have Kelladis and Ashur kind of having their first that we see Dominus or slash Lanista and Doctore conversation. We also have Hilara telling Ashur they're pretty much nowhere near rich enough to afford this auction, which leads us into a great scene, which is Ashur confronting Cornelia erroneously, but it
Mhm.
kind of ends up working out a little bit later on. But I just these scenes to me, I just really enjoyed them, so I figured maybe we'd shine a little bit of a spotlight if necessary.
Yeah, Asher freaking out right now. He's talking to Halara, who's trying to get the coins together. Also talking to Kelladis, trying to figure out when Achilea can get back on the sands because he's like the people's mind. It changes with the wind. Like I know they're all freaking out about Achilea right now, but if we don't get her out there soon, she's gonna be history. So they are kind of on a timetable there too, and then comes the money and Halara. I love Halara, dude. Halara is such a great character. We'll kind of get more into
Yeah,
her
wild episode for
heartbreaking,
her.
yeah,
Mhm.
in a little bit. But it's just all is lost moment. Well, not all is lost, but it's like they're a really bad spot, and Ash was like, "I got an idea," and to just straight up go and almost blackmail Cornelia like this was. I'm amazed it didn't turn out worse.
Same. Same, definitely. Yeah, like I really thought she was gonna get offended and like start threatening him, which she ends up screwing him over later. But she was willing to take this, and that realization on Asher's face was kind of awesome to see. Like, yeah, he was gossiping. He needed to swallow this pill because he caused all of this to happen. But it was cool seeing the realization happen because it directly leads him to go to Chorus in the next scene and have that information, and he shares that right away. But the one comment I'll have for Halara is I know she manages the finances for the house, but it was pretty cool seeing it in action. Like she had
Yep.
all the ledgers out, she was doing the work. I don't know how common it is for slaves to even be able to write or read to any level, but that does add a little bit more just nuance to her. Like I know she managed the finances, she had to in some way, but it was just cool seeing that because I also really like Halara. I just feel that she's destined to have a really bad ending for her character because of the nature of her love for Asher and how her relationship with Messiah is. So that's going to end poorly, but we'll enjoy the ride while we have her. But the other thing I'll call out is this is where we get the opium drop that
Mhm.
Cornelia has. And to me, you're living in this time period, you're rich. Why would you not partake? I'm sign me up. Like there's no
That's her
way.
vibe. That's 100% her
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah,
Yeah.
the 5,000 denarii thing, and then later we get kind of maybe what the value of stuff is. I feel like it doesn't really happen much in the show. You know,
Mhm.
we got like Crixus gets purchased for whatever it ends up being, like 10 denarii or 50, and it's like way more than he should have been. We get like I think like Tullius maybe tries to buy Gannicus for like 400 denarii, you know, so we don't really get this stuff. So it's just interesting to think about how they actually threw some numbers at us. And
Yeah.
Asher gets a lot of the really good comedic lines. You know, a lot of the cheeks and the fists and Jupiter and the male parts and things like that. But I love Cornelia's dialogue. I mean, the way that they interact in this scene and then the later scene too is she's just so good. And I love the fact that she just ends the talk after she has to like guide him towards kind of what the answer actually is. And she just says, I so enjoy our little talks. And then she just kind of walks away. And it's just like, I love the fact that she's just like this serpent that's just like always slithering around the villa that he either probably tries to avoid, but he can also just like walk up to her and initiate a conversation like this. But the last thing I'll say, because it also kind of relates to where Gabinius was at a little bit earlier, she throws a shot at Asher, like really low key here, and where they're talking about Opiter dying, and she's like, you know, not unexpected for men of that position, and that felt like a kind of thinly veiled threat too, in a way of like, hey, Betty, Lanistas die pretty often in this industry, and I don't think anyone will really bat an eye if another one, aka you, finds a similar fate. So
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but that is almost a threat. It's like, dude, you keep talking to me and bringing up these conversations over and over again, but you know what? You're kind of expendable.
oh yeah,
And I liked when Asher comes up, apologies, and she's like, ugh, a word eternally on your lips. I'm just like she's just like so sick of him coming up and asking for shit at this point. But like she's crashing in his house, so I don't know what else you expect. And
Mhm.
her and Messia, I don't know what's going on there either. Like, is she going to try to purchase Messia at the end? No, because Messia's going to die somehow. I think we all think that. It's definitely like just a fun little play thing for Cornelia, right? It's not like
100%.
actual feelings with the kissing and shit, right?
Yeah, that was wild too. It was interesting to see Messias speak so openly, and she gets a little reprimanded for it. She gets a little bit too big for her britches, so Cornelia kind of wheels her in a little bit, but still lets her play in the realm of like talking shit on Asher. Like that's totally fine, and that was pretty interesting. You're right though. I just Hilara, when she finds out that this is happening, because she will find out eventually, it's not going to end well for Messia in any way. So the next conversation we can have here is going to be Doctore's kind of, aka Chorus, is still struggling. So he has these kind of two scenes here. He emerges onto the sands, still quite drunk. It seems like all the guys are kind of looking at him. This is when he goes kind of berserk and tries to break into the villa. Essentially, all the gladiators and some of the guards have to kind of restrain him, which then leads to him and Ashur having this conversation in the cell, which is really what we needed. I'm glad we got this kind of, I guess you could say, reconciliation almost pretty quickly within this episode. And then they kind of end this with, they're of singular mind. They are spurred towards mutual purpose, essentially, is what Ashur ends this with. So I thought this was just very good for us to have.
I really did think there was going to be more of a negative reaction from
Mhm.
Chorus, even though, like, this is what I mentioned off the top. Like, he still is kind of indirectly blaming Asher
Yeah.
because he's the one that was, spreading his mouth and talking shit to Proculus that actually ended up causing this. But even if that's the case, like, Chorus wouldn't have any right to then kill Asher for this. Like, there's no way that he should put the blame in him. So yeah, let's just hope Chorus gets just focused as all he can be and is just willing to just do whatever Asher says in order to get the revenge, because that just seems like such a fun episode to watch him go to work, because he already crushed at the end of this episode, and we'll get to that scene. That was one of the best scenes of the entire season so far.
Yeah, it was great to see some of that almost instant gratification for Chorus at the end of the episode, like because he's just absolutely depressed. Like you said, he's stumbling into the Ludus, and they're all looking at him. And I think Arados has a line to Tarkon. It's like, well, looks like your dad's job of Doctore is pretty safe, and
Yeah.
just trying to fight guards. Yeah, like I'm surprised. I'm not surprised because I know Asher's giving him some leeway, but like I thought he was actually going to be like stuck in that cell for a little bit just because he was beating the shit out of everybody. But luckily, they had a conversation. I love when Asher was like, "Yeah, I know we thought it was the Salesians, but I kind of thought of something else." And
Mhm.
Doctor is just standing there with the chains, and he's like, "You're gonna tell me I am
Yeah,
but
yeah.
captive audience?" Like, I love the way they speak in their interactions, and I love Asher too. It was phenomenal acting when he knows that he has to reveal this, and Chorus is being upset. He talks about, "I'm going to the Ludi Apollinaris," or I'm hunting down Caesar basically, and Asher just like kind of scratches his chin a few times. He's like, "What are you gonna do there again? Exactly? Why are you doing that?" So I thought it was phenomenal acting on all parts here. Especially, I didn't say it earlier, but Graham McTavish finding the dead body of Apater, being crazy. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's obviously pissed that Asher let this slip. I think the thing that got him really upset, I think the most upset, was that Asher is kind of playing like, oh, it's such a tragedy, like Opiter's dead, and he's kind of saying like, don't fucking act like you care about him as like a person, like don't do that in front of me, like I know you don't care about that, like you don't need to act like that, and then Asher kind of pivots towards the more business, like, all right, like let's team up one last time. We'll get to the auction. We'll collect information about what happened. We'll get some evidence stuff so we can actually bring an accusation. And then again, that is that spurred towards mutual purpose. And then it ends with the classic line, which Doctoria has dropped a lot this season, but it's always good. It's especially good in this situation of your will, my hands.
And this actually just came to me as we were talking about this. I didn't think about this. Was there any payoff to Proculus seeing Chorus hooking up with Operator at the party now. What am I not remembering of the direct payoff for that?
That's how Operator knew who Asher was talking about last episode in the market when Asher says, I have something that Operator wants beyond coin. Proculus knew that it was Chorus because Proculus saw Operator jerking off Chorus at the party.
I think
Okay.
that makes like the final connection. Like Proclus, I don't know how much he believes Asher when Asher's saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna get all the Operator's shit," and he's like, "You don't have money for that. Like, what are you even talking about?" And then he says, "You know, I got something worth more than that," and that's when Proclus is like, "Oh," I think that's when he starts to take it serious.
Yes.
Basically,
Okay. That actually makes sense. Okay.
yeah, he actually ends up connecting those dots
Yeah.
there. All right.
Mhm.
A heavily anticipated scene we got coming here, just titled Opium, because it was maybe a little bit of a Chekhov's gun 20 minutes ago in episode time, but they brought it right back. I love the way that, you know, this is post Cornelia flirting. Ashley kind of walks in on it, interrupts the sesh, and he's kind of trying to ask this question again. He does clear the air and rehashes his original purpose of kind of speaking with Cornelia. And to celebrate, she drugs him. And he goes on quite a journey in with the effects of this opium. So we kind of have the conversation between the two of them, and then we really got Asher zooted up on the opium and what happens there, because that is some deliciously messy shit that
Mm-hmm.
happens when
Mm-hmm.
he's on the opium.
How they shot that was incredible. Just
Yeah.
it happens almost every season of Spartacus. Drugs get taken in some form, and then you have like the mysticism and the cinematography of like phasing in and out, and then they use the superposition of switching Viridia and Halara. Like that's just money. I almost half expected him to say Viridia's name in this scene, which thank God he didn't, because I want Halara to have a little bit of a happiness for like 5 minutes, because it's going to go so downhill soon. But the last thing I'll say before I pass it over, because it really was just a drug trip that he was just enjoying, is you mentioned earlier, like it's rare that they ever give us denarii denomination or amounts, and here he's basically getting the agreement that he'll get 25K to bring to the 25,000 denarii to bring to the auction for what he'll be bidding on, because I think he ends up going up to 27,000, because that was just him using what little money Halara said that they had saved away. So 25,000 is almost what he's guaranteed, and it's basically, she looks at it, it's like, that's not shit to me.
Yeah.
I don't even care. So she is the equivalent of not a millionaire, but like closer to a billionaire, I would say, in this society.
25, that's almost nothing. And then apparently Crassus is the wealthiest man, so even more wealthier than Caesar. So
yeah,
and Cinna, I guess, House Cinna. So absolutely crazy when you look at it from that perspective. It's funny that you titled the scene though right after as the opium scene, because I titled it as Asher Jr. question mark, because that's all I could think about is like what are the odds that Halara gets pregnant here, and that would add even more to the mess.
but why would that be different than him just banging her every day?
Because Halara's heartbreak is going to be even that much more worse when she's
Yeah.
like, "Don't worry, Asher, I'm pregnant with our child." And he's like, "I thought you were Viridia the whole time," and she's
Okay.
gonna kill herself. I was saying that I think Chorus is going to be the biggest heartbreak in this show. I think Halara might assume that mantle. She is just being teed up for straight tragedy right now.
Yeah.
I let out a very audible ugh when he hits her with, "I would have you look at me and know my heart is yours." And I was like, no, like, don't say that to her, man. She's going to believe it. She's totally going to believe it. It's just so bad, and it's pretty significant. It feels like that this is the first time that they've been intimate like this after, Caesar's sexual assault, we'll just call it, even though, legally in the Roman times, whatever you want to say, like, and we kind of had a lot of a conversation about like, well, how's Asher going to feel about that? What is their relationship going to be like in the aftermath? And it feels like this was the only way for that to happen. It feels like he hasn't really thought of her that way. Obviously, Viridia plays a huge role in that, and we even see it here, like Luke mentioned, with him thinking it's Viridia, but this is just messy. Man, this is so mad. He calls her a vision and is saying all these things to her, and she's like, "Oh my god, like right here, like you really want to do this?" Like she
I
is like taken aback by the way that he's acting, and
yeah.
she woke up the next day with just the fattest smile on her face and was like, "Oh my,
hmm
things are finally looking up for me," and he has probably no idea that that happened.
I wish I didn't love Viridia as much as I did, because then I could root against this. But at the same time, it's like, well, like I want Viridia to be happy. I think right now my love for Viridia definitely trumps Halara. I just think Halara might be more interesting. And yeah, they're both probably going to have a terrible ending. If you're connected to Ashur in any way, it's good things aren't ever in your future.
For Halara, it's just like, especially too, where her first lines were like, "You honor me," because Asher was like inviting her into the waters too, and it was just, oh my god, it was so sad when all of a sudden Viridia's face pops up, and I'm like, that makes sense, and oh my god, and Kyle, you talked about the opium being Chekhov's gun and stuff, and it did come back. They made it a point though to show us that they had multiple vials. So I'm just curious if that's going to come back into play. If Asher's going to use it to poison her, and Uno reverse card there, and maybe she wanders off the cliff in her
Hmm.
or wild state, or something bad happens to her after Asher drugs her, and then Asher's going to be like, "Oh, it was the drugs. I couldn't help at all." Blah blah blah. But meanwhile, it's just him scheming.
Throwing it out there, if we could get the lost tapes of Messia and Cornelia on the opium, wouldn't hate that.
Me
Wouldn't
neither.
hate that at
Were there
all.
any
Not at
deleted
all.
scenes that
Yeah, if that's out there, asking for a friend. Okay.
Spartacus they just hire beautiful
Yeah,
women.
that's
Yeah.
good for us and good for them. Probably better for them.
Good for us.
Yeah.
It's
And men.
kind of good for us, but it's probably great for them,
Yeah.
so great for them. Okay. So the auction, I believe that
Oh.
is kind of the next step here in this conversation. And wow, what a scene. It's going well. It's going so well until it just isn't. And it just is a complete train wreck, a total social embarrassment in front of everybody. But we do end on a little bit of where it's a high note, then it's kind of a down note, because I think we can probably also latch on to the end of this of the Kasudia and Proculus kind of conversation that happens. And this was just a roller coaster of emotion, it felt like.
I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but like the whole idea that Cornelia was going to fund his buying at the auction was that the trade-off would be, of course, that Asher was going to use his favor with Gabinius to make Viridia marry a Caesar ally. That is something we already have talked about multiple times. I think even throughout this season, that's never going to be in the plans. But Kasudia knows that now. Like there's just no chance of that, right? So she poisons Cornelia in this scene, and that ruins the whole thing. So I'm going out of order, but like that's the main part of like the spying of this scene. But I just want to point out too that for those listening, if you're unaware, there is an official Spartacus board game called Spartacus Blood and Treachery, a game of blood and treachery. And there's so many different things within this game. Like there's so many different, you go to the Coliseum, you go to the market and all these things, but it's just so funny, maybe even ironic timing that auctioning is like a huge part of that. And that's exactly what we get here. So I'm living my best life just watching this and seeing how the Romans are bidding on the on operators leftover. Like they're literally doing it like a modern day auction, which is cool. Didn't know how high the money was going to go, but he ends up going past his limit of the 25K, but it's not within reason. Like he could afford the extra 2K because he's just going back and forth between Proculus to the point where Proculus like, okay, that's way too much money, and he taps out. And then the embarrassment happens. This scene was just masterful. I was on the edge of my seat and there was zero combat happening. Like that's just how you know it's such a well-written scene. I was loving everything that I was getting here. I don't know how much else I want to add besides this was just one of the best scenes of the season. This and the next scene.
Yeah, no combat to, I would say, Chorus's dismay, and against his
Yeah.
best efforts, because he was trying to get after it, but it doesn't work out that way positively.
Oh yeah, he saw the pendant or bauble, as he called it, on Brother Ferox's belt, so he knew immediately that they were the ones that actually drew the blade and killed Opater. Which, yeah, the self-control in him to walk out of there, proud of him for doing that. And I also had that the Brothers Ferrix should get an Oscar for their acting. because like Gabinius is like, oh, Apatur, he was a great man. He did so much for this city, and the brothers Farrax are like patting each other on the backs and like solemnly nodding, like, oh yeah, he was a great guy. We miss him. Like, honestly, amazed that you guys even had that in you to pull off that facade.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested, and it's probably more for ease in the show reasons, but it's just kind of funny that they auction all of it off at once. You know, like they mentioned they read through the assets. One thing that caught my eye was the 23 gladiators, and it's like take them all or take none, baby. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, can we? You know, I can take two. You know, can't Asher? Asher can be like, all right. I mean, I got 100 dinar. Like, I get one of them guys. You know what I mean? So, and the other thing that makes me laugh is I don't know. I don't remember them saying it, but how much did Proculus actually pay? Because like, if this guy who actually has no money bid me up to 27K, and I still got to pay 26, even though he wasn't good for 27, he wasn't even good for 5. Like,
Yeah.
why am I paying 26? Because this
Yeah.
dickhead was fucking bidding me up with money he doesn't have. So, I mean, he probably didn't want to make a scene in those things, but I would be like, yo, okay, so you know,
Yeah.
like I'm obviously paying
And
like 6, right?
how does Cornelia feel safe sleeping at night? Like, she just did this to Ashur in front of everybody. Like, I understand that if Ashur were to do anything to her, like, he is going to have hell brought down on him by the weight of the Roman upper class, but he could still kill her easily. Could he not? Like, could he not just have Halara go and poison her, or I'll slit her throat while she's sleeping? Like, the way she's mocking him and basically belittling him so badly in front of his whole group of stakeholders that matter in Capua, like, I would be so worried to close my eyes around him, because this is like the peak level of embarrassment. This is like Badiatus is time to get his revenge type of storyline that we're about to embark on. And she seems like for pulling out of that plan and basically ruining him and setting him back so much and pushing Proculus forward so much. She's got like a death flag on her, in my opinion. Maybe it's a hint for later, but like, wouldn't you not be scared doing this? Like, are you that overly confident that Ashur, who lives near you and for the time being has all these slaves under his control, like, I would be freaking out.
I don't know. I mean, like if you see an ant in your kitchen, you kill one, you worried about the other one? Probably not.
Yeah.
I guess he's a wasp though in that case.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
usually,
that's
I
fair.
guess,
I mean, he's
yeah.
probably worse than that, but yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
definitely the way that she thinks
She
about
is
it.
just so high above everybody else, just full up on her family name and hubris that she's just like, I'm untouchable. I can do whatever I want.
One of the saddest outcomes of this is just, you know, Gabinius' disappointment that Asher, like, once again, is like making a little bit of a mockery of the situation, not on purpose. It's just he's involved in something that is kind of embarrassing and these things, and I feel like he's just internally and kind of outwardly too just rolling his eyes of like this guy like
Mhm.
like you know, I feel like he wants Asher to be more and better, so it's easier to kind of ally with him in a way because they do have some singular purposes that they can, you know, get after, but Asher's public persona makes it quite difficult to do that. And I just thought it was so funny that he was just like, God damn it. Like the way that it all went down, he was not very happy about it.
And to add on top of that, like, Kasudia hates this man more than anybody in the entire world. Like, she hates Ashur more than she loved Opiter, to the point where she's willing to just blow everything up. And to me, she's like as an audience member, back onto the top of my hit list of who I hate the most in the show. She might have even jumped past Cornelia again. I know they've been going back and forth. Earlier, it was definitely Kasudia. Then Cornelia came in and started wrecking shit, and then kind of jumped into her. But now I think, even though Cornelia is the one that makes the power move against Ashur here, it's because of Kasudia. I kind of hate her again more than Cornelia.
Well, that's a good conversation to have here. So you're saying, Luke, you are under the assumption that Kasudia really did throw Asher under the bus here and planned to have him killed? Because I was under the assumption that Kasudia and Asher set this up. Kasudia goes, I'm going to fake, like, reveal the truth to Proculus just to get him to the appointed point position. And then Asher, you'll take him out at the end. So it was like a crisscross, double cross type of thing.
Well, my thought was that Kasudia was at some point aware that Cornelia would be the backing of Ashur's purchase in this auction, and she knew or once she found out that this was all off the back of the marriage proposal to her daughter, she already has the information that that's probably not going to happen. Gabinius has made that decision himself already in a previous episode. So she kind of just immediately ratted Ashur out to Cornelia, unless I read that wrong. I felt like
Yeah.
that was what was going on.
No, you did.
But yeah, but then later on, so like Ashur goes there at the end of the auction and is like, hey, listen, you know, Proculus killed Opter and these things. And then the next thing we see her is her and Proculus. And she tells him like all the stuff that Ashur told her basically. And he's like, well, okay, why are you telling me all this? And she's like, I hate Ashur more than I loved Opter. That sounded like what you mentioned at the start of this.
Maybe I read that wrong too, but I think Ashur was just smarter than Kasudia. I don't think Kasudia was working with him.
Interesting.
Even though they could have used we have a common enemy and it would make sense for the story, but I think that Kasudia has already proven that even if Ashur and Korra save her life, she's still not willing to throw her hat into the Ashur ring. Like, I don't think there's anything that would ever push her to be on Ashur's side, especially knowing that Ashur has hard eyes for her daughter. Like, I just think that it's such a blocker. But at the same time, if you told me Kasudia next episode was in on that, I guess it would make sense. I just didn't. I think Ashur was just playing everybody the best way that he could, knowing how much Kasudia hated him and knowing that she was going to betray him. So I don't know if I'm looking too many levels deep or if you're completely right and like they worked on this together. I guess that'll be a somewhat of a reveal next episode.
I mean, you're not wrong. Ashur is smart enough; he could definitely do that. I think where it comes down to, which we don't really know the truth, is which does Kasudia care about more? You know, her love for
Yeah.
Opter or her hate for Ashur, which she tells Proculus, you know, I hate Ashur more than I like Proculus, but that may have been a lie just to get Proculus where he needed to be. And I think that they really wanted Proculus to go there for the meeting. I think Ashur and Kasudia were hoping that Proculus himself would go to do the deed, and that's why Ashur, you know, he says, "I thought your owner, your Dominus, said that he would hold the blade himself," and so unfortunately, Proculus was smart enough not to go himself and just sent everybody else. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But that's funny that you know, we really don't know who's crisscrossing who and who's
Yeah.
backstabbing who.
Kyle, where do you land? Do you land on, was Kasudia working with Ashur to some level here, or was this
Yeah.
Ashur being more like Badiatus and like
the way I
playing
landed was that
everybody?
she is working with Ashur, probably begrudgingly, but I definitely think that she was in on all of this for Ashur. And I feel like maybe the main piece of evidence I feel like when the whole house of Ashur pops up in this, like the gladiators kind of come out of the shadows and things like that, I feel like Satyrus, the main brother Spherix, kind of says like, oh, you know, that bitch or whatever, kind of seemingly talking about Kasudia, being like, you know, revealing that he feels like she double-crossed them and set them up to get slaughtered like this. So, which awesome moment. It was great when Ashur just starts laughing and then all the boys just kind of walk out of the shadows and it was like, oh baby.
Ashur's laugh was so good. I literally got goosebumps because he like tilts his head back and does the open mouth laugh. And I was like, I've seen that before. He has done that in Spartacus season 1, season 2, especially when you like think he's caught, when he has finagles his way out. I love that laugh so much.
Not in an effort to kill our momentum with the best scene of the episode, because I just have one more thought, is just so I'm clear, like, are you guys saying that Ashur planned on losing his patronage from Cornelia here? Because like
No,
Kasudia is the one that causes that. So she screwed over Ashur with the marriage reveal and then decided to work with Ashur to kill Proculus.
Yeah, the Ashur coming to her with the information that Proculus killed Opiter, you know, that lets her, like, she's like, okay, I want to kill Proculus. Like they just find that purpose in that exact moment. I mean, a master stroke from Ashur to think of that in the moment at the market before he walks away, where he grabs her basically, and she doesn't want to talk to him. And he's like, we got to talk about this, because that's like his kind of last hope almost in this situation, because he can't let Proculus win the auction and get all this shit, because he was just, you know, flaunting it to Proculus like there's going to be one house in Capua, baby, and now Proculus is in that position. So they kind of work through that, it seemed like, together quite quickly.
Okay. So there is more layers to it than just like everything was planned between Kasudia and Ashur.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
no.
Kasudia truly screwed him over. Ashur took it in the moment to figure out a way to then potentially work with Kasudia to still screw over Proculus, even without Cornelia's backing.
Yeah.
All right,
And Asher,
I'm
I
gonna
don't think
revisit all of this after we watch next episode and
yeah.
their next interaction. Yeah.
I don't believe Asher knows for sure. He could probably infer that Kasudia is the one who tells Cornelia why, but I think that all that stuff happens so quickly. He's so shocked that Cornelia's like, no, never
Yeah.
mind, I'm not paying
Mhm.
for this. She kind of says something about liars, but I don't think he has enough in that moment to know it was Kasudia who backstabbed him. So he just sees her in that moment of, okay, like she loved Apater, ally right now. Like I need something. I need a lifeline. And they kind of both capitalize on that.
Okay.
I don't think Kasudia even knows that she threw Asher under the bus.
Yeah.
Cornelia came up and was like, "Oh, I heard like our marriage proposal is like gaining traction," and Kasudia's like, unfortunately not. I talked to my husband. Seems like he had a really bad reaction to it. So that was really it.
She does mention that he soured on it after Asher's visit.
So there you go. That was what was confusing to me, I think. Because
Yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
this like 4 or 5 days ago. Usually I watch
Yeah.
right before we record this, so it's a little bit fuzzier. But I remember walking away thinking that there was a reason that
Oh,
I
yeah.
landed on the other side. But you guys honestly convinced me. I think your side is more appealing, like in the grand scheme of
Oh, yeah.
things, where there was like a in the scene transition for what Kasudia was willing to do in retribution for Opiter. So it could almost all work together where like, yeah, like she still hates Asher and she was willing to do this. And she still might hate Asher going forward and not even consider him an
Definitely.
ally, even though they work together to pull off one of the coolest things that this show has done in this season, which I think we don't have to delay anymore. We can get back to that if you're ready.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, this is just Chorus going beast mode. And
Dude.
you know what? He deserved it. We deserve it. It's been great to watch. It was great to watch. And how do we feel? Maybe that's an opening question of we still have one brother, Ferrex.
That was my question for Luke. Does he get the full point? Right?
I feel like I deserve the death flag point because I just threw out there I wanted all 3 brothers and I know one survives. And I was watching that whole scene happen. I was like, please, please, please don't let one survive for this exact reason. But I'll take, less than a point as long as I get something.
0.666 of a point.
I'll take it. I will
No,
take that.
I think you deserve the point there because that was a great call out. And as I was watching it, I was just like, they're so done. I mean, as soon as Asher, even before Asher started laughing, I felt like there was a double cross in the background. But I was like, dude, the brothers Ferrex, I thought they were gonna die in the arena. Well, I guess technically they do, but I thought it was gonna be with the crowd and everything. But now they got the dishonored chorus revenge arc, just death.
For what it's worth, I absolutely did not foresee it happening in this manner. So partial luck, but I'm happy that I called the timing of that. But everything else about this scene was incredible. Like when Chorus has the kill on the second brother was insane. When he takes him and just smashes like half his face and smears it across the wall, I could not believe what the hell I was watching. It was so damn cool. And just throwing the one brother into the spike and like pissing them all off. I'm happy that the main brother's the one that lives because he's the one I want to like suffer the most. He's such an asshole and like his face is so hateable. Like I'm excited to see him basically cry without his brothers like alive and he's going to go right back to Proculus and however that plays out. Like I don't think he can go in the arena anymore because he can't go by himself, right?
No.
Yeah,
Unless they do like some big event where like the circle of fire from like season 2 happens or something. They're all thrown out there. But yeah, he's just going to be like, I feel like just an assassin at this point.
Yeah. He could definitely do the dirty work of just stuff in the night.
Yeah, this just was quite cathartic for sure. And Chorus lets him live. I was a little surprised by that. It was interesting that even within, this kind of bloodlust and the situation that he still has the presence of mind to be like, you know what, it's really Proculus that I am completely mad at. So he kind of saves Satyrus. I'm not entirely sure why.
That was my
plot.
question.
Yeah, plot is the reason why they don't just send one of the unnamed guys as a survivor back to
Why even
Proculus.
send anybody? It's not like Proculus wouldn't immediately know that it was Ashur.
That was my question.
Yeah.
I guess they kind of say, like, bury the bodies. They don't really want it to be out. I mean, are they going to be out there with a bucket of soap and water scrubbing the third brother's brains off of the wall? Like, I doubt it, but they're burying the
No,
bodies, so I
that's
don't really
actually a
know.
good point. Yeah,
But
no, that's a good point. They're not going to find a massacre that's going to get around, and the news is going to get around to Proculus that all of his men are dead. So you're right. Like, I guess they did
yeah,
need a messenger because if everybody just disappeared, he would still probably assume it's Asher. But knowing that one of the brothers is going to go back and say, "Yeah, they massacred
yeah,
7
and I mean, it's
gladiators," and yeah,
it's literally plot. Like, the actor who plays Satyrus is great. They're going to keep him in the
yeah,
show as long as humanly possible.
yeah,
So
Yeah, I guess my question was like, oh, like, what's the point of keeping him alive? What does Proculus get with that message? But I think you guys sold me. And then I was like, oh, like, what if Satirus just tells them where the bodies are? They can dig it up and find it. And then I'm like, they're not going to fucking send a CSI unit
you
with
don't care
like,
that much.
yeah,
yeah.
DNA. Fucking, not going to be able to track it down. They're going to find the dead bodies. They're going to have no idea who did it.
It's an interesting thing though, because of course the message itself is the House of Ashur, which I love that he kind of includes himself in this still. But the
Yeah.
House of Ashur shall see his fall upon the sands of the arena, which is okay. We've killed Ammonius. We've killed 2 of the 3 brothers Ferox. I guess the stable of 23 gladiators from the House of Abiter are now like
Yeah.
part of the House of Proculus, and I can't imagine we're getting back to like arena games, against the House
Yeah.
of Proculus and the House of Ashur. I just don't know. Is that like, are they going to kill Proculus just in the arena? Is that like what it's going to be, kind of an innuendo like that? I can't see how this transitions back to let's battle it out like honorable men on the sands. I feel like Ashur obviously wants to kill him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's no other gladiators that have built up lore yet, but
Yeah.
we still have multiple episodes, and it doesn't take that long to start saying like, all right, Proculus, he petitioned to Ludus from Rome, and they sent like this guy, and then they build him up, and then that could be who's the stand-in for who Achille will have to fight or something. I could see them doing something like there's time, like the Shadow of Death, Theocles, he had some build up, but it was all based on just Anameus talking about the stories in his
Mhm.
past. And it's not like we knew much about him besides that. So there's time to build somebody up. But I agree, there's not really many options that would feel satisfying as a stand in
Yeah.
for Proculus in the arena yet, but there's time.
Well, I'm skeptical too of even going forward. Like, okay, I feel like we're all kind of agreeing, Proculus probably isn't long for the world. I
Right.
feel like the shores of the underworld are definitely whispering sweet nothings into Proculus's ear at this point. And then it's like, where do we go gladiator wise from here? Because I
Hmm.
mean, we just get some new houses, I guess, but that's just like an interesting place for the show to be. Because I mean, God to the Arena, it's a prequel season, so Batiatus just kind of kills the rivals, becomes kind of the guy, like, secures some level of position in the city, and then we kind of see where he's at in the main series. And it's really only kind of like Good Salonius is kind of like the main rival house in Blood and Sand, but then Blood and Sand as a story moves so far beyond the games, it doesn't really matter. But I feel
Hmm.
like, will this show kind of bust the seams of Capua and we'll move so far past the arena? I don't know. So that's just like an
We're gonna
interesting
need
thing to think
like
about and
time
watch for.
skips. And they also didn't they talk about in maybe it was episode 1 or 2 talking about building the arena back up? Like they could do a mini time skip and
Yeah.
it could be ready, but I think that would be on the other side of killing Proculus because there's no way you can let their rivalry fester with a time skip. Like that has to get resolved sooner,
Yeah.
and then the bigger stuff can be in the games in the finale potentially.
Yeah. And I feel like that could be totally a next season kind of thing. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
crazy at all to be like, oh, entrepreneurial people from Rome saw that there's a little bit of a vacuum of gladiator houses in Capua. They saw the opportunity. There's some new guys in town that kind of want to
Hmm.
fuck with Ashur in the next season. And sure, I'm totally ready to buy that.
Yeah. And this scene ends with Chorus reaccepting the position of Doctore again. Uh yeah, I mean, like that probably was just inevitable, right?
I didn't see it coming at all, if I'm honest.
Agreed.
I thought Kelladus was like, he got the vest, he got the whip, he's cemented in there. This is the second time he's been bestowed the title Doctore. I thought it was like gonna be solidified, but I guess it's like triple takes these backsies. Be like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, just kidding.
Yeah, I guess this is what you get when your Doctor is not a slave.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of this roller coaster. You got some HR things you got to get through that, the concept of slavery itself pretty much eliminates for you, I guess.
Mhm.
But Calidus, what the heck is even going to be going on with his story now, too? I mean,
I'm excited.
what's he going to feel like? I'm glad, to maybe get him back as a gladiator in the arena. That was something that the position of Dottore takes away from him. He's just been kind of jerked around and jerked off. So, good and bad there, I guess you could say. But his story has just been kind of wild over these episodes. So we'll just have to keep an eye, because we got 3 left, right? 8, 9, 10.
3
I
left.
think so.
3
Yeah.
left, and we don't have any screeners, unfortunately, guys. So we may be dropping episodes 8, 9, and 10 a little bit later than we normally do.
Unless that
Good call.
changes, which it might.
Yes. Yeah, unless that changes.
Okay, so never mind.
Well, hopefully it does. All right. I think that's probably the scene by scene discussion things. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, no, we're making great time. So I think let's just jump right into the death flag segment here. So plant your death flag. For those keeping track at home, I am currently winning with a score of 1, and we have zeros for Kyle and Paul. So
I'm kind of on the 0.666 repeating train, but I guess it's 2 to 1, so you can have a full point.
For what was that one for?
2 of the
brothers. 2 of the 3 brothers.
Oh! I thought you meant for yourself or something.
No,
Okay.
not for myself.
Either way, I mean, I don't even. If it comes into play, we'll rehash this conversation in the future.
Yeah.
But for today, I'm going to go first. And so my choice, which actually changed within the last 10 minutes of talking on this podcast, I know I was just defending the idea that there's enough time to build up gladiators for Proculus, but I'm actually thinking maybe there's not, and he just dies this next episode. So Proculus feels like a good target to take off the board for Ashur next episode, because he's going to lash back out, and Ashur's not going to lose this time. Like, he has too much momentum and he's on the up and up. So I'm going to stick with Proculus. So now, Kyle, you're up.
It's me. That was going to be my answer. So I'll go in the same realm, and this would be a big one. This would be pretty crazy. I'm going to say Casudia, because Satyrus is going to tell Proculus that Casudia double-crossed them. And we know that Proculus has no problem committing murder. So I think that maybe she, on the other hand, will be not long for this world. I don't know how inspiring of a choice that is. I don't know how good I feel about that, but I feel like it might be an episode too early, maybe an episode or two too early. I don't want to say Cornelia yet. I don't want to say Messia yet. So I'm just going to throw Casudia out there.
For what it's worth, that is what I changed my guess from.
Okay.
So I was kind of right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, it's funny you just said who I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Cornelia. And I had the exact same thought of you, and I wasn't going to pick her, but I don't want you or Luke to be able to pick her next week before I go and not be able to pick her. So I want to take a gamble and say she's going to die episode 8, when it really feels like episode 9, 10 kind of death. But I'm not missing my chance to pick her to die, because she has just been pissing people off left and right.
It's tough because it doesn't seem like we have games to look forward to, so it's hard to pick a gladiator at this point. So I feel like it has to be, if people are going to die, it has to be Romans, unless they just throw a curveball at us and it's like, hey, by the way, games.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Okay. Now we're going to finish this podcast with our Bang Kill Marry, and I was struggling very hard to come up with a good theme here. So I'm actually going to change the idea of the Bang Kill Marry slightly, but it's going to be Bang Kill Marry Doctore edition. So you're not actually picking the people that you want to bang, kill, marry, but just equate that to whatever you want and what you think that means for choosing Doctores, of how they would do. So the 3 options here, all over the board, we have Gannicus as a Doctore, Calidus, who didn't get to really live out the Doctore path. So did you think he was in the right direction, or would you say that he wouldn't have been a good Doctore? And then the third one is going to be an iconic Spartacus character, Barca.
Whoa.
So Gannicus, Calidus, and Barca. And then I'll be going first with my answers here. So I landed on actually killing Gannicus, because I don't know if he would do well in a position of leadership where structure is kind of needed. I know he's charismatic and can lead the boys and he's the man. I go to war for him, but I don't know how he would do disciplining the other gladiators. So I'm going to kill Gannicus as a Doctore, and I'm actually going to marry Keldis because I think he had the right building blocks, and he's such a good dude that I would trust him being a Doctore. He would have to grow into it. And Barca is a wild card a little bit, so I ended up I'm picking banging Barca as the Doctore because you never know what you're going to get with him. I feel like he could be amazing, but I could also see him being more of the Gannicus thing where he couldn't discipline the other gladiators. So that's where I landed.
It's me now next. Okay. I'm gonna, I think, kill Barca. I feel like his heart's maybe a little too soft. I don't know if he's really in the game of edumacation. You know, he's kind of like a lover and a fighter. Well, I don't know. Yeah, with the whip and the educating part of things, he also feels, and this is why I'm going to combine this take with why I'm going to bang Gannicus. Gannicus and Barca too both kind of feel like naturally gifted guys, you know, and it's like sometimes, you know, you're an all pro, you're a pro bowler, you're a superstar, but you can't teach people because like to you it's like just do it, you know, and these guys are like, do what? And it's like Gannicus is like, just do a backflip off the wall, bro. Like, why would you not just run up the wall and jump over him? It's right there as an option. So I think, but trying it out with Gannicus would be fun. You know, I'd probably fuck around and set him free, and then we fucking be bros. And then until I realize that he's just messing around and drinking me out of house and home, then we'd probably have to sit down and have a talk. And I think I agree with all the Kelladis takes, though. I feel like
he'd be a great Doctore.
Yeah, he feels like he rocks the hardest too with like the honor of the house. We've seen him demonstrated with the whip. He's got an eye for things. I loved him and Achilea kind of going through where she's like trying to mention other styles and he's like, no, because of this. And it's all makes a ton of sense and those things. So yeah, Kelladis definitely for sure would be my Doctore.
Yeah, same for me. Calidus going to be my Doctore. He knows all about the matchups, which ones beats better or matches up better against another one. He knows like how to control the gladiators. He was screaming at them like episode 2. He was like, "Do you know who I am? I defeated all these guys." I think he's a great Doctore. Gannicus, gonna bang him because look at him and his cockroach is on, as we all know. And then Barca, Barca might just be not solely focused on glory in the arena. I know he was a like very focused gladiator, but he was more focused on winning his freedom and running away than bringing the house to glory. So I'm going to kill Barca.
Okay, so you guys ended up answering the same, but we all married Calidus because he would be a great Doctore.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It seems like he finds that exact level of kind of temperament too.
We'll say he's probably more likely to die now that Chorus is back in the Doctore position, and now he's back to being a gladiator who has a love interest with Achilea. That's double death flags.
He might be on something.
Yeah.
We shall see. Well, we got to get some games, man. We got to get some games. Hopefully by the end. I mean, there's no way we don't. So,
well, Tarchon's going to kill the Roman, so that's going to happen soon.
He's going to kill Elada on accident, you mean?
Yeah. Try to kill
All
the
right.
Roman, yeah.
All of these speculations about the future. We'll be back. So that's going to be episode 7. We will be back, obviously, next week for episode 8. As Paul mentioned, we've been dropping these on Fridays because we've been blessed. Jupiter has split the heavens and handed us screeners. I don't know if that's going to happen for 8, 9, and 10. We're crossing our fingers that Stars and the team are just kind of holding their hand back, and then they'll release like the last 3 closer to when they actually come out to save spoilers and all of those things. But if not, it'll probably be out, I don't know, we'll call it Sunday, Monday, the kind of the way that the first 2 episodes of the coverage came out. But we'll worry about that next week because this week, currently, we're still living in this fantastic episode that we got here and other things that we're doing. So we're moving into January. It's officially 2026, and January is going to be a crazy busy month, both for Binge Empire and Bingetown TV as a podcast network. So Binge Empire right now, obviously, we're covering Spartacus. We're also covering Fallout. We just finished covering Stranger Things. We're going to start covering Industry over on HBO. That comes out on Sunday, the 11th. And then within a week from then, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms drops on HBO as well. We'll also be covering that, a new Game of Thrones show here on Binge Empire. And then Bingetown TV as a podcast network. So the other big show that we have is called The Core. That's where we cover everything that happens over on Apple TV. Severance, Silo, Pluribus, those types of shows. Hijack is coming out on Apple TV in maybe like 10 days, slightly less. So that will also be covered on a Bingetown TV podcast over on The Core. And then I would be remiss not to mention two of our little more fun, smaller side feeds. First one going to be Unreal. It's a reality TV podcast. We'll be covering The Traitors, US Season 4, which comes out this week on Peacock. And then Jujutsu Kaisen. We're also big anime guys. If you are watching on YouTube and you're a fan, you can see those One Piece wanted posters in Paulicus's background. We'll be covering the latest, the newest, the upcoming season of Jujutsu Kaisen over on our anime podcast titled Final Form. So if any of that sounds good to you, stick with us, give us a like, subscribe, support us in that way, because we're going to be delivering a lot of content at the start here in 2026, and we're loving it, and we're looking forward to it. So for the last time this episode, we are Binge Empire, and thank you so much for listening.